Hey, folks, we are live. It is Monday, May 12th. Happy Mother's Day, belated Mother's Day to those of you that didn't hear those cherished words yesterday. Happy Mother's Day to you. Um, Crooks or savings accounts. That's what I call this one. Crooks or savings accounts. I have been pretty quiet on the subject. Let's be super clear. I am not an expert on tariffs and high finance, and I'm not going to give you lectures on what the Fed is and who created it and what I think the IRS is and all that. Like let's just keep things fairly simple. When I see trends, when I see what some people call fear mongering, my hackles go up a little bit, right? So I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but I'm perceptive, right? So I am perceptive at witnessing certain activities or certain traits in organizations and recognizing, oh, this is a bad call. This is a bad call. We got to jump ship. Like I'm really skilled at that's a bad call. We got to jump ship. I can't tell you how many times I have been corporately employed and I've seen a decision from leadership and I went, ooh, even if the rest of the team was like, yeah, this is awesome. Like, even if the rest of the team was gung ho, I've seen decisions from leadership and I went, ooh, that's a rough one. That's going to leave a mark. Might be time to start looking, right? And I think I've got a little bit of a gift for this. Maybe some in spiritual words, they would say, oh, sweet child, you've got the gift of discernment. And so this discernment kind of puts me on edge sometimes with certain things. Let me tell you about a certain thing that used to bother me. Do y'all remember that little thing we had? We called it oh, that's right, the pandemic. Do you remember the pandemic and the broken supply chain? And everybody, like, I used to work for a large company and I got laid off, but I knew that they also laid off a bunch of other people. And I knew that they weren't doing stuff at the warehouses anymore. And so I knew, well, if there's no activity at the warehouse, there's not going to be any product getting to the dealers. So I knew there was going to be a shortage of equipment to the dealers. In fact, I'll go out on a limb a little bit. Like, long before the boats were held up, hold on, folks. Sorry about that. The rest of my house is doing stuff. Long before the boats were stacked up on off the shores and able to come into the docks, there was a shortage in supply. Well, the shortage in supply was people were cutting back like crazy anyway in business. And so there was like this fictional shortage of inventory that I saw long before there was a real shortage of inventory. And that shortage in inventory was self-induced in many cases. But what happened? The retailers were like, yeah, that's going to be an extra $5,000 to buy that. Then it was 15, then it was 20, then it was $40,000. If you wanted to buy a Telluride, in 2022 or 2023, you were going to pay $30,000 or $40,000 over MSRP to be able to, for the privilege of buying that new vehicle that was probably going to need a new engine in 8 to 12,000 miles anyway. People, okay, I'll tell you one that caught me off guard. I had a friend that worked at a local Mercedes dealership at the time, and he said that they were charging almost $100,000 per vehicle over MSRP because supply chain. I don't know how badly you need a car. I don't know how badly you need a new car, but to pay $100,000 over the sticker cost is just crazy. And I was trying to think, well, how are people even doing this anyway? Because like half the people I know are laid off and don't have income. So the people that did make income were spending it like on crazy things. And then think about this. Like, if you wanted to buy a mountain bike during the pandemic, you couldn't find a decent mountain bike for less than $5,000. It was like, that was that sweet spot of pricing where the bikes just vanished, right? Now, go to a bike shop now. Go to a bicycle store now, and they've got 3-year-old models they can take out of a box and sell you for, 25% off, because that's how supply and demand works. Um, but like I said, I saw a lot of instances where I knew even if the inventory existed, it was marked up. So we would call that greed. Okay. So when the supply matched the demand, they still marked it up as if demand exceeded supply. Are you tracking where I'm going with this? Okay. So work with me here. Um, you got to figure out where you want to be, in terms of history and thoughts and the way that you deal with people. I just had, I'm not going to say a lesson. I'm going to say it's almost like I gave a lesson in business ethics. I had somebody that wanted to hire me away from somebody that I contract under. And so they said, hey, instead of paying the contractor, we'll just pay you direct. We'd rather have your services without being encumbered by, how you're hired. And I said, no, I can't do that. I can refer you to other people, but I can't take that work. I can't take out of the bowl that's feeding me, right? So that's like a little bit of ethics to me at play about how not being greedy and doing the right thing is important. Sometimes when you look at the numbers, you go, how important is it? But that's the problem. That's the problem with this whole situation. So Trump takes office and he starts, and he told us before he got elected, he was going to do reciprocal tariffs. Like, it wasn't a surprise. And then he said, "Oh, we're going to do these tariffs." Now, let's be clear. Um, if someone is charging you 50% to import your goods, but you're only charging them, 10% to import their goods, it, you are at a loss. So how long do you reward somebody for stealing from you? Right. And so Trump just said, hey, it's going to be reciprocal. So if they charge us 80%, we're going to charge them 80%. If they charge us 40%, we're going to charge them 40%. And people lost their minds. People lost their minds. And then we started seeing the players in the market spaces. Now, I'm involved in the mountain bike industry. I'm involved in the power sports industry. I'm involved in the marine industry. And of course, I do a lot of work in tech, right, with WordPress and things like that. Everybody started raising their prices. Everybody started raising the prices and then started saying things like, take advantage of the pre-tariff pricing on XYZ. And some people, some CEOs went very public with saying, I'm going to make a statement and I am going to put a line item on our invoices that say increased taxation due to tariffs and a percentage, 20%, 30%, whatever it is. And they're going to start charging that. Now, here's where my mind short circuited. When do you charge that? You're starting to charge it now before the tariffs even take effect. So you're a distributor and you're charging retailers a surcharge for a tariff that hasn't started yet. And you're like, no, 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 no. Due to our increased costs, we need to pass this along. What are you talking about? Where did this come from? And so I've been seeing this, and not just a little bit. I've been seeing it everywhere. Pre-tariff pricing. Take advantage now. Get this sale. It's not a sale. The price is up 30% from where it was last quarter. So, and we already know that inflation has begun to come down since the office has changed, not go up. We lived through a crazy inflationary period in the last administration. Everyone seems to be forgetting that we lived through this crazy inflationary period in the last administration. And then they want to go, oh, this tariff thing is crazy. When actually the prices are coming down. Gas is cheap, eggs are cheap, everything's getting cheaper. And then we go, oh no, we need more revenue. So let's start blaming this tariff thing. And we'll even add line items to our invoices and charge people tariff fees, even though we haven't paid any tariffs yet. So I'm driving back from a mountain bike racing weekend, and I hear the report on the radio about how, last week, the UK signed an agreement with us. So everybody was saying that the UK was going to this and the UK was going to that and that all this stuff. And what do? We make an agreement with the UK to level out the tariffs. We make an agreement with Canada to level out tariffs and put a pin in things for a bit. We make an agreement for the next 90 days with China to lower the tariffs. And so my question now is, are we doing business with crooks, or were these unintended savings accounts? Are the CEOs and business people that have been collecting this extra revenue due to tariff increases, are they going to dole this back out? Are they going to divvy out this money back to everybody? Are they going to reduce their pricing? Are they going to say, oh, hey, you know what? They're saving us money. Now we can pass those savings along to you. Now is the time for supply and demand to even out with a lower price. Is that what's coming our way? Because you have fear-mongered us for the last 2-3 months on how all of this is going to be passed down to the consumer, and we're all going to have to take it in the shorts. And this is so negative. Can't believe we voted for this. And now the tariffs haven't taken effect. And in fact, the tariffs have been lowered. And so all of these businesses, all of these distributors that have been charging this tariff increased pricing over the last month, 6 weeks, 2 months, as they've been ramping up to reflect their increased costs, are we now going to see them ramp down for their decreased costs? And better yet, how many of these CEOs that went public with what they were charging to make a point, how many of these CEOs are now going to say, hey, my bad, I want to value my retailing clients as much as possible, and I want to pay this forward. I'm going to give you a rebate on that overcharge, and we're going to rebalance this distribution and make sure that this is correct. You see, folks, if you're one of those people that says, oh no, we believe in that, we believe in this, we believe in fairness, we believe in equity, we believe in all these things, and then you charge more for these tariffs to make a point and say, I don't like what the orange man did. We have to spread this cost out over everybody because this affects everybody. Okay, great. If the costs are lower, that also affects everybody. And now are you going to dole those dividends out? Or are you going to keep that money as an increased margin and show it to your shareholders at the end of the quarter? That's the question. Are we doing business with crooks, or were these just unintended savings accounts and everybody's going to do the right thing? That's my question. Have yourself a wonderful day.